Hey there folks, Caleb Downing with SDI, and yes, the sun is right in my eyes. It's perfect angles to be shooting in this lighting, but we're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna be talking about the AR9 today, and I'm gonna tell you a couple little things about it that I think are interesting and maybe might help you if you're putting one together. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so the AR9, this kind of, I'm gonna say maybe like 5-10 years ago, this was a lot more prevalent, it seemed, because the prices of 9mm were just dirt cheap. I mean, you could build an AR9 and just have fun, almost like a 22, right? It's not quite the same today. It's still fun, and it still is cheaper than shooting 5.56. And there's different reasons people have AR9 and stuff, and we're not going to get into that. That's a whole philosophy of use and all this stuff, and we're not really going to get into that, all right? What I want to talk today is about specifically feeding your AR9 and putting it together without having to have too many extra pieces and parts that you got to buy, all right? So specifically, I'm going to talk about this guy. This is the insert for an endomag. There's a company out there that basically allows you with this conversion. Basically, this is just the innards for a PMag. You take your PMag, you pop your floor plate off, right? You pull out your spring and your follower. Basically, you strip the guts out of your regular 5.56 magazine, and that allows you to take this insert and basically insert it into a standard PMag, right? Put your little floor plate on to make sure nothing comes popping out at you. Something like that. Actually, I'm going this way. Put it in the wrong way. I never take these things apart. There you go. Put it in basically like that. You want to make sure that the top feed lips are kind of popped out. They come out above the feed lips up here. That's what those things are called. Anyway, they come out above here, and basically this little doohickey, this weird looking little piece of plastic that looks very fragile, knock on wood, I've never had one actually break on me, that is your ejector. All right, if you remember, we talked about this a little bit before in some other videos about making sure you know how your firearm works and stuff. If you use this kind of an insert, if you have a round in the chamber, take your magazine out and pull your bolt back, it's not going to eject because that's your ejector. You need this magazine in the gun for it to work properly, all right? But the cool thing that this does is it allows you to basically have a standard, unmodified AR-15 lower. So I can throw whatever upper I want to put on here as far as 5.56, 224 Valkyrie, 300 Blackout, and now 9mm. I can throw that on here and not have to have some kind of a special block in here for a Glock magazine or a Colt stick magazine. I don't have to modify my lower receiver at all. In this case, this is an SBR lower, so I don't want to be having to modify it and change things about it. I want to just leave it be and use the pieces that I want in it and not have to modify it, all right? So to make this whole system work, you have those endomags, you have an upper. Again, you get to use a standard mil-spec upper if you want to. You use whatever Gucci stuff you want to use out there. Your 9mm barrel, and then you'll need your 9mm bolt carrier group, right? And a mil-spec charging handle, right? So we'll put all this stuff in here together, just like this. And something to keep in mind here when you're putting these things together is AR9s are direct blowback. Unless you get some special system that has some kind of gas system in it, which most of them don't, an AR9 is just going to be a direct blowback system, right? And as such, it can have a very fast cyclic rate, right? So you still need some kind of a heavier buffer or a more powerful spring to slow that bolt carrier group down. And one thing that you'll notice, if you have really fast cyclic rate, right? If your bolt's going really, really fast, you'll find that you'll get trigger slapped. At least I'll find that if my bolt's going too fast. Usually the hammer, right, on an AR-15, it kind of has a spur that comes out here on the back. Here we go. Here is a standard, this is actually a Colt, a standard hammer on an AR-15. It's got this big old spur that comes out the back. When your cyclic rate, when your bolt speed is way too fast, it's basically going to smack against this hammer and push it down, and that back portion here is going to smack the back part of your trigger, and that's what's called trigger slap, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be basically a really fast metallic slap on your finger, and it can be more than annoying. I mean, if you shoot a whole lot, it can bruise your finger a little bit. And maybe you got maybe I have delicate hands, maybe that's what it is. But it can be more than annoying, and it can just ruin a fun day of shooting. So one thing you can do, not to get around that, you should use heavier springs and specifically heavier buffers. They make specific buffers that are very heavy for 9mm. But one thing you can do is get some of these triggers do not have that big heavy or that big long spur that sticks out the back. So this basically really alleviates trigger slap, not only on AR9s, but on other maybe faster cycling systems that you might have, whatever you might be shooting. You should, this is kind of a band-aid. Don't do this to just fix it, because that bolt's still going to be going fast and it can still wear out other parts. So you still need to use, you know, proper weighted springs and proper weighted buffers, but this can really help. All right, so like I said, if we put this thing together, this is the standard AR lower, and then we take our 9mm upper, slap this guy in here and close our pins. What we get to do is use these mags, these endo mags with these inserts. We can load them up. I have a loaded one right here. You get to load them up. You basically load them just like you would any other pistol magazine, where the bullet just goes straight in, or the cartridge goes straight in. You don't have to necessarily feed it in like a regular AR-15 magazine with a rifle cartridge. It's a pistol, so you just pop, you stack them basically. And so with this guy, I like to lock the bolt back, put the magazine in, drop the bolt, and now you can fire it. Let's actually do a little bit of shooting, and I'll show you kind of how it works. All right, my face is, I'm sure, covered in nasty stuff because AR9s, again, they're direct blowback, so they're gonna spit a bunch of stuff back in your face, especially when it's suppressed. But that's fun, and that's easy, and like I said, you do get a bolt hold open. I don't know if the light's in here right, but you do get your bolt hold open. Pull your magazine out, and again, you gotta double check and make sure everything's cleared out of there. All right, and then you can drop your bolt, clean it, do whatever you wanna do, load another mag, do your stuff, and carry on and have some fun. All right, guys, so that was some interesting stuff that I find fun about 9mm ARs. They're relatively easy to build. With the use of these endo mags, you don't have to modify your lowers, especially, like I said, if you got specific ones that are like SBRs, so you can play around with it and put whatever you want to put on it. It's nice to be able to use these things. And just a couple of those little tips and tricks about the hammer, the carrier speed, buffer weights and stuff. It's a fun project to work on, and when you get these things tuned up right, they're still going to be gassy. I have not come across any in this particular kind of system that is not going to be gassy, but they're still fun. They're still a lot of fun. 9mm subs are nice and quiet. Use a suppressor. It's fun, especially if you've got people that are more sensitive to loud noises. It's just a lot of fun to shoot and a lot of fun to use. All right, that's it. I'm Caleb Downing with SDI. I hope you found that interesting and helpful. Hopefully we'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.